I know that I won't give a dime to the Republican Party. I haven't for a long time. Did it during the 2020 election, about 6 months before, trying to get the White House's attention. Hey, this is for legal matters. You guys should be watching what's coming your way right now. And that's the last money I'm spending on that. The Republican Party, dead to me. However, the Freedom Caucus is a great replacement. And right now it's just acting as a needle in everybody's ass. Move. And I think if you saw what the Freedom Caucus did in the House of Representatives, I contend that any honest American, I don't care who you voted for, Republican, Democrat, Independent, every honest American that looks what the Freedom Caucus was standing for and what they got should be thanking those guys right now. I think they're the answer to the cancer that we have. Andy Roth is the president of the State Freedom Caucus Network, and he's trying to get, and there's great growth that is happening right now, trying to get more Freedom Caucus members into our states. And states like Texas is a real problem.
Big problem. Think about it this way. The uniparty, the establishment, the cartel in every 50 states, or in all 50 states, 50 swamps, the governor is a full-time job, like round the clock. He's well-funded, well-staffed. The bureaucrats that run the woke agencies, full-time, year-round, full staff. The lobbyists, full-time, well-staffed, well-funded. The lawmakers, the part-time lawmakers, they don't have any staff. They have no help. So when we wonder why we're losing as conservatives to the establishment, it's because of that. It's because of that imbalance. In Texas,
and we don't. And every time I go to talk to a state senator or a state legislative member, they always say the same thing. I'm so far behind on this. I don't. Can you help me out? Because they don't have anybody but lobbyists that are briefing them on things.
They don't have time to read the bills,
no.
and that's by design. They're jamming everything through. So when conservatives have to vote on something, they're like, well, how should I vote? The only people that are in their ear is leadership or lobbyists.
Right. And I have found, I think Utah is in grave trouble. I think Texas is in grave trouble. And there's no reason for those states to be in grave trouble except all of the people in those states think, oh, we're fine.
Yeah.
We're fine.
Yeah.
We got the Republicans. No. A lot of people, Republicans, a lot of them are progressive, so they're in on it. They like it. Two, in those states like Texas, you don't, even if you're a Democrat, you run as a Republican.
Right.
Because you can't win as a Democrat. So you have all of those people that are kind of just hiding as a Republican. But in Texas, what
bad.
are they voting on right now?
So yesterday, they, just like in Congress, they vote for the speaker and then they vote for a rules package. Unlike the fight that the Freedom Caucus waged against McCarthy in the U.S. House, in Texas, the Republican speaker won 145-3. So all the Democrats came on board and supported this Republican. Now ask yourself why. It's because in the rules package coming up, he is going to give Democrats committee chairmanships. This is a full Republican majority House.
Yeah, but we're working together. We like to work together, reach across the aisle.
And when we wonder why Texas doesn't have school choice, it's because a Democrat runs the education committee. You want to file a school choice bill? Go ahead.
It's not going to get out of
but
committee.
Then it's going to die in committee. And when the speaker defends this, he's like, "Well, I don't want to be like D.C."
Yeah, well, I don't want our state to be like D.C. I don't want our state to be like California. These guys have a responsibility, especially in Texas. There is absolutely no excuse in Texas. None. And we're going to lose Texas.
And you remember when the Democrats left, the Democrats in the Texas House left and went to D.C. Throwing a temper tantrum because they didn't like the election integrity bill.
Right.
So they finally came back. The Speaker did not punish them, but they watered down the bill and passed a weaker version. And now you give them committee chairmanships.
God help us if they're on the committee.
They use that money to raise money, or they use those committee chairs to raise money from lobbyists. They then use that money to defeat Republicans.
It's insane.
It's insane.
It's absolutely insane.
And I could tell you a story in every other state of the similar type of corruption. It's bad, it's deep, and it's in the dark. Most people don't know this stuff.
Give me the 5 worst states.
Well, Alabama, we went down there. Alabama, we went down there and said in no uncertain terms we can't set up an Alabama Freedom Caucus because there aren't any conservatives in the legislature. And None. And I'm not even joking. The state legislature has to vote on local bills, like if a county wants to raise taxes. Mm-hmm. There are 105 members in the Alabama House. When they vote on that, it passes like 6-0 because all of them duck the vote because they don't want to be.
This one, I'll vote on that one.
Right. And so when I was looking at the voter rolls, the average Alabama House member ducks 70% of their votes.
Oh, my gosh.
And it gets worse. One Alabama state senator hasn't voted in 3 right?
I mean, that is
and I
absolutely corrupt.
And the media outlets down there that cover the Capitol, they don't mention it. They don't talk about it. They don't care. They don't want to expose it. They know what's going on, but they don't do anything about it.
Why rock the boat if everything is working?
In Tennessee, because you guys are not conservative. And we were in a room that we were told these are the most conservative members. We're giving our pitch, like, here's what you do when you're in a Freedom Caucus. I had a guy over here say defend subsidies for a Ford plant, Ford Foundation, all of the woke ESG stuff they're shoving down their throats. I had a guy over here defend hotel motel taxes. And I'm looking at my VP of Government Affairs, Justin, and I'm like, are we in the right room? And these are deep red states.
And these are people that came. It wasn't just everybody. They knew who they were meeting with, and they were coming to hear a pitch about starting a Freedom Caucus. Right. Anybody say anything when you walk out of those meetings and go, guys, we can't do anything with you?
Some of them said, well, gosh, I guess we better start voting better. And others were like, this isn't for me. But I am hopeful in the states that we are in. We're in 10 states, Georgia, South Carolina. We got some Mountain West states. These guys are hardcore.
What Mountain West?
We got Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming.
Good.
And they're all good.
Good.
And they're ready to fight.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I'd like a list of all of the guys who are in it and that are really standing up and fighting all across the country. I'd like to know who they are.
Yeah.
Because the audience would like to support people like this.
Yeah.
And they need to.
And it's growing. I mean, we have over 100 state lawmakers across 10 states. And we're adding states. We added 10 last year, and we want to add another 10 to 15. So by the end of this year, it's my hope that we can be in half of the 50 states.
We have to be.
Yeah.
We have to be. So, Andy, to explain to people, because the media just turned these guys into monsters, explain to them why every American should be grateful to the Freedom Caucus, that this was not, this should have been very bipartisan. So explain.
So I wrote an op-ed about this yesterday to your exact point, that every American, Republican or Democrat, should be thankful for the House Freedom Caucus. Had they not stood up and fought, then the dictatorship that started, well, it started before John Boehner, but John Boehner, Paul Ryan, Nancy Pelosi, all of them ruled the House with an iron fist, top down.
It changed because of Obama. During the Obama administration, you no longer had a budget. They just They destroyed the way everything used to work. It was still corrupt before.
Yeah.
But now it was just this small cabal of people who were deciding everything for every representative and every senator.
Yeah, and that's why you get 5,000-page omnibus bills that fall on your lap, less than 24 hours before it's voted on.
Right.
That's standard operating procedure under the old regime. And if McCarthy had gotten his way, if a lot of the Republicans had gotten their way, that would have continued. There has not been a floor amendment offered in 6 years.
That's insane.
Because they won't allow it. They won't allow debate. And so all of the reforms, which now allow for floor amendments, the committees will have more power. A lot of that power is now decentralized. And that is going to massively benefit not just the Freedom Caucus and Republicans, but the entire country.
The entire country. Everybody.
In my 20 years on Capitol Hill, last week was the most amazing thing I ever saw.
Me too.
Which says something about the other 19 years.
Me too. It does. It does. But I would have to say this was the most heartening thing I have seen. We've had lots of elections that went our way, but then when they get there, they don't do anything. These guys stood up, fought, were actually heard by the American people to some extent, and people have changed enough to where they're like, I don't want any of this old crap. I want something new. They stood, they made, if you listen to Chip Roy on the floor, you were in.
Great guy.
And they stood, they weren't afraid of being called names or ostracized. They just did it. More of that is what the country needs.
So I've got a story to tell you. Our South Carolina Freedom Caucus, they fought the establishment in the South Carolina House.
Right.
They fought them to such an extent that leadership made them sign a loyalty oath. All Republicans, a loyalty oath. You cannot help or encourage someone to challenge our incumbents, our colleagues,
oh my
our
gosh.
Republicans. And that could mean politically, like help them financially, recruit candidates, but it also would not allow you to take a picture of the vote board on the House. This is what the Republican establishment's doing in South Carolina.
But South Carolina, actually, didn't they stop pediatric?
Well, so the Republican leaders in South Carolina forced all members to sign a loyalty pledge.
Unbelievable.
The members of the South Carolina Freedom Caucus signed it, but crossed out all the things they didn't like, just as a middle finger to them. So since they refused to sign it in full, the Republican leaders right now are considering kicking 19 members of the Freedom Caucus out of the Republican caucus.
Wow.
Like, this is a violent nuclear option that they're going to. And Jim DeMint, Mark Meadows, Ralph Norman, a member of the House Freedom Caucus from South Carolina, they're all weighing in and saying that is a really dumb idea.
How can we help them?
Yeah. Blow up the phones of Davey Hyatt, who's the majority leader in South Carolina.
Davey Hyatt?
Dave Hyatt, yeah.
Okay. And you just call the Capitol.
But to your last, yeah.
Okay.
And
Dave
just
Hyatt.
scream loud.
Bloody
like
murder.
everybody, yeah. But to your point earlier, the South Carolina Freedom Caucus has been wildly successful. And one of the things they did was they forced a hospital to shut down a transgender clinic.
Gender-affirming clinic.
For minors. And they did that out of session. No votes, no bills.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Andy, thank you so much. If you happen to be listening and you are in, a state house or a Senate, please contact State Freedom Caucus. You find them at statefreedomcaucus.org, or you can follow on Twitter Andy Roth. He's the president of the State Freedom Caucus Network. You let us know who the good guys and bad guys are, will you?
Yeah.
And we will support those good guys as hard as we can.
I'll give you an update every time I can.
Thank you very much.